12 Times the Culture did something so raw, so unfiltered, so completely outside the rules.
But everybody knows I don't go for it. So if you're trying to be cute and you're trying to be...
That if you tried to pull it off today, you'd be done, canceled, sued, blacklisted, or just laughed off the internet before the week was out. You know the names. You know the songs. But do you know what was really happening behind these moments, and exactly why the modern music industry would never let them breathe?
From the depths of the sea, back to the black Snoop Dogg.
Stay with me on this.
You can't touch this. Why you standing there, man? You can't touch.
Number 12, The Roxanne Wars, 1984.
In any category, I'm considered the best. And every time that I say it, there ain't nothing less.
Picture this, a 14-year-old girl from the Queensbridge projects in Queens on her way to do laundry. She gets pulled into Marley Marl's apartment, freestyles for 7 straight minutes over someone else's beat, a beat she wasn't cleared to use.
Everybody knows it's me, the R-O-X-A-N-N-E. Everyone knows I am fresh and any.
And they press 100 copies on vinyl and put them in the streets. That girl was Roxanne Shante, and that freestyle became Roxanne's Revenge. Now here's where it gets wild.
Think you a god, but you do Elon. Trying to be cute and you're trying to be fly.
She had written it specifically to clap back at UTFO, a group that had a hit record called Roxanne, Roxanne. So she took their beat, took their concept, and straight up flipped it in one take.
What you should do, you should be like me, a fly MC. Don't never have to bite.
She didn't rework it, didn't go back. One take, that was the record. And it sold 250,000 copies in the New York area alone, before national distribution, before label push, before any of that. Just word of mouth, block to block, borough to borough.
No, and listen to me, because my name is Roxanne, and I came to say I rock this.
But here's the part nobody talks about. That response record sparked something nobody was ready for. At least 86 answer records, some historians say more than 100, all released within the following year. Rappers who had never met UTFO or Shante were pressing vinyl responses.
But let me tell you something else about the doctor too. He ain't really cute and he ain't.
Songs called Roxanne's Doctor, The Real Roxanne, Sparky's Turn, The Parents of Roxanne, a dozen different Roxannes, all fighting for space at the same time, all of it on vinyl, pressed, manufactured, distributed, sold physically.
You know it isn't me, the R-O-X-A-N-N-E. And if you want to play a little...
Today, that same moment is an Instagram story that disappears in 24 hours, or a TikTok response that trends for 3 days and then gets buried under the next thing. There's no central marketplace to flood. There's no record store where the whole block can physically walk in and pick a side. The Roxanne Wars worked because vinyl was the only battlefield, and that battlefield doesn't exist anymore. Number 11, the Wu-Tang Clan's Free Agent Contract, 1993. With 16 shots and more, I got going to war with the melting pot. RZA walks into a label negotiation with 9 rappers from Staten Island, a cassette, and one condition that no label in the history of recorded music had ever agreed to. Every single member stays a free agent.
First things first, man. You with the worst, I'll be sticking pins in your head.
Sign the group, but each MC can sign solo deals with any competing label they choose at any time. And they take the Wu-Tang name with them. Multiple labels heard that condition and walked. It was an absurd ask. You don't sign 9 artists and then let 7 of them go to your competitors. That's not how the business works. Steve Rifkin at Loud Records said yes. For $60,000 total, divided 9 ways, he got the group. Wu-Tang Clan signed to Loud/RCA in 1993 for $60,000 and a freedom clause no label had ever handed over before.
Like a nurse, I'll attack any slack in this map, come fully packed.
Here's what RZA was actually building. He didn't want a deal. He wanted an infiltration. His plan was to spread Wu-Tang sound across every major label simultaneously so that no matter where you turned in the record industry, Wu-Tang's aesthetic was already inside the building. The way I make the crowd go wild. Sit back, relax, won't smile. He told the New York Times directly, I chose those labels because they didn't have anybody we'd have to compete with. GZA went to Geffen. Listen, the rock and alternative label. Method Man went to Def Jam. ODB went to Elektra. Ghostface went to Epic. Raekwon stayed on Loud.
Baby, come on, baby, come on.
By 1995, members of Wu-Tang Clan were recording for 5 of the 6 major labels that existed at that time, simultaneously. Competing labels, one crew.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan, swinging through your town like your neighborhood spy.
Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, drops November 9th, 1993. First week it sells around 30,000 copies. Modest numbers, but it didn't need to explode right away. That was the whole point. RZA had a 5-year plan. Step 1 was to establish the sound. The album peaked at number 41 on the Billboard 200 and went platinum by 1995.
Yeah, come on, baby, come on.
And each solo success made the group bigger. Each major label was, without knowing it, funding the collective expansion of one unified brand they didn't own. By 1997, when the group came back together for Wu-Tang Forever, it debuted at number 1.
The Lone Ranger, co-ed, danger, deep in the dark with the art.
Now here's why this is impossible today. Modern label contracts don't just bind the group, they typically include 360 deals that claim a percentage of solo work, touring, merchandise, and endorsements.
Grab my nut, get screwed. Here comes my shout.
Labels learn from Wu-Tang. They close that gap.
Enter the winter, straight up and down, that shit at cam. You can't slam, don't let me get.
Real talk. Only 9% of you watching this are actually subscribed. That hurts a little, not gonna lie. We spend hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life because this music deserves to be remembered. And you're here because you care about that too. So if these videos mean something to you, if you've ever said, damn, I didn't know that, or felt something while watching, just hit subscribe. It's free, takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube to show this to more people who love this music like we do. Let's build this together. All right, back to the story. Number 10, Public Enemy's Fight the Power in Do the Right Thing, 1989. Spike Lee calls up Chuck D. He's making a film about racial tension in Brooklyn. He needs an anthem, not background music, not a soundtrack song. He needs a 4-minute cultural weapon that would play over the opening credits throughout the film at the climax. Something that would hit so hard the audience couldn't look away. Chuck D wrote Fight the Power in a week, and what he wrote was not a protest song. It was a manifesto. He came out swinging at Elvis, at John Wayne, called them zeros to his heroes, declared the song a mission statement for every black kid who had ever been told to quiet down. The Bomb Squad built the beat from dozens of layered samples, sirens, breakbeats, James Brown loops, horn stabs, all stitched together into something that sounded like a city on fire, and a major Hollywood studio backed the whole thing. Spike Lee wasn't some independent filmmaker begging for a budget. Do the Right Thing was released by Universal Pictures. A major studio put money behind a film whose anthem openly confronted law enforcement, criticized American cultural icons, and depicted a black neighborhood burning. That arrangement in between radical art and mainstream money, that was possible in 1989 in a way it just wouldn't be today. Today, the notes come in before the script is finished. The legal team flags the lyrics. The marketing department sends a memo, and the version that comes out the other end is softer, more palatable, cleared for maximum reach and minimum discomfort. Fight the Power was never palatable. That was the whole point. And whether that was better or worse for the culture long term, I'll let you decide. But we haven't seen that kind of collaboration since, and some of y'all know that's not an accident. Number 9, Snoop Dogg recording Doggy Style while charged with murder, 1993.
the bound to the wild, creeping and crawling, Yiggy yes and Snoop Dogg.
August 25th, 1993. Snoop Dogg, Calvin Broadus, is in the middle of recording his debut album with Dr. Dre at Death Row Records. His features on The Chronic had already made him the most anticipated debut in rap history.
He is I and I am him, slim with the tilted brim.
Everyone was waiting on this album, and then his bodyguard, McKinley Lee, shot and killed a man named Philip Woldemariam. Woldemariam had allegedly been threatening Snoop. There was a confrontation, a gun appeared, and Lee fired.
And once again, I got 5 on the 20s. It's like that, and as a matter of fact,
both men were charged with first-degree murder. Here's how Snoop handled it. He went underground for about a week and then surfaced at the MTV Video Music Awards to announce an award category. He turned himself into police that same night, was released on $1 million bail, and went back to the studio. November 23rd, 1993, 3 months after the shooting, Doggy Style drops. Debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. It sold 806,858 copies in its first week, the highest first-week number for any debut album in any genre in history at that point in time. The murder charge didn't slow the rollout. Death Row didn't pull back. Interscope kept distributing. Radio kept playing it. And the label released a song called Murder Was the Case, a track about killing someone in self-defense, as a single while Snoop was literally awaiting trial for killing someone in what he said was self-defense. The trial didn't even begin until November of 1995. Johnny Cochran, the same attorney who would win the O.J. Simpson case months earlier, represented Snoop and McKinley Lee. In February of 1996, both were acquitted. Self-defense accepted by the jury. But here's the part that doesn't work today. An artist charged with first-degree murder, with a trial pending for over 2 years, actively promoted on radio and television by a major distribution partner backed by a corporation with public stakeholders. Today, that artist is dropped before the arraignment is over, not because of justice, because of brand risk, because of advertiser calls, because the machinery of corporate music has insurance considerations and board presentations, and a Twitter mentions report on someone's desk by 9 a.m. In 1993, Death Row was moving too fast and making too much money for anyone to slow it down. That math isn't available anymore.
He is I and I am him, slim with the tilted brim.
Number 8, the FBI warning letter to N.W.A, 1989. N.W.A puts out Straight Outta Compton in 1988. The record sells without radio support, without MTV rotation, without mainstream media coverage. It sells because people passed it to each other. Tape to tape, hand to hand, word of mouth across every city that recognized what it was saying. And then the FBI noticed. In 1989, Assistant Director Milt Ollerich, a senior official of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, wrote a formal letter to Ruthless Records about Fuck the Police. The letter argued that the song promoted violence against law enforcement and that the FBI took exception to it.
Tell them where you from. Straight out of Compton. Another crazy ass nigga.
Jerry Heller, who managed N.W.A, later described it as a reasonably worded threat, not a suggestion, not a review, a letter from a federal government agency to a rap group. Federal law enforcement agencies spent time and resources drafting an official communication to intimidate a hip-hop group from Compton, California. Because the music was reaching people the government had no other way to talk to. And the response from N.W.A, they kept performing. They kept releasing. The Detroit Police Department literally told them not to play Fuck the Police at a concert. They played it anyway. The amplifiers got cut. The crowd rioted. Now here's the flip. Today, that FBI letter would hit Twitter in 30 seconds. Within an hour, it's a news story on every platform. Within 6 hours, N.W.A. has sold 100,000 additional copies because the Dunning-Kruger effect of government censorship is perfectly documented in the streaming age. Today, that letter would be the best marketing campaign in hip-hop history. In 1989, it was a genuine attempt to silence something the government found threatening. And the fact that they tried tells you everything about how real and how dangerous they believed the music was.
Once you're on the scope, your ass is through. Look, you might take it as a trip.
Number 7, MC Hammer's 200-person empire, 1990 to 1996.
Told you, you can't touch this. Why you standing there, man? You can't touch.
Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em comes out in 1990, sells 10 million copies, becomes the first hip-hop album ever to go diamond. MC Hammer, Stanley Burrell from Oakland, earns $33 million in that first year alone.
You better get a hype, boy, because you know you can't touch this. Ring the bell, school's back in.
And he spends all of it. 200 people on staff, not just an entourage, a staff, cooks, drivers, security, personal assistants, choreographers, backup dancers, family members, childhood friends from the neighborhood who needed jobs.
Boy, you can't touch this. Yeah, that's how we living, and you know.
$500,000 a month just to keep everybody paid. A 40,000 square foot mansion in Fremont, California, with a pool shaped like someone in hammer pants, marble floors, a 17-car garage, and gold-plated gates at the entrance with the words "Hammer Time" embossed on them. By 1996, he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with $13.7 million in debt. Now, here's what makes this genuinely impossible today. Physical album sales in the early 90s generated money at a scale that streaming simply cannot replicate. When Please Hammer, Don't Hurt 'Em sold 10 million copies at retail price that translated into a check that no streaming number, no matter how astronomical, can match in the same time frame.
You can't touch this. Break it down.
1 billion streams today earns a fraction of what 10 million physical sales earned in 1990.
Look, man, you can't touch this.
So the spending, the empire, the 200 people, that was only possible because of a pre-streaming economic model that no longer exists. Hammer didn't fail because he was uniquely reckless.
You can't touch this. Look in my eyes, man. You can't touch this.
He failed because the money came in at a speed and scale that the industry had never seen before and has never seen since. And nobody had built a financial infrastructure to handle it. Today, that Diamond album generates a different kind of wealth. More sustainable, maybe. More spread out, but never again in one explosive rush. And if you were old enough to see those hammer pants on a television set and think this man is untouchable, you remember the exact moment that math stopped working.
As such, and this is beat up. You can't touch it. I told you, home.
Number 6, Ice Cube leaving N.W.A. without a lawyer, 1989.
America most, you can yell all day, but you don't come close. Cause you know I'm the...
You probably heard the short version. Ice Cube wrote most of Straight Outta Compton. Dre made the beats. Easy fronted the money. And when it was time to get paid, Cube's cut didn't match what he put in. But here's the part that still doesn't sit right with me.
Now you act like you don't know me. It's a case of divide and conquer cause you let a juke.
When N.W.A. signed to Ruthless Records, when they signed the original deal, Ice Cube had no legal representation, no entertainment lawyer reviewing the contract, no manager pushing back on the terms, no one in the room to explain what publishing rights meant.
Living with the whites, one big house, and not another nigga in sight.
or what signing away a percentage of royalties for a term of years actually looked like in real money. He was a teenager from Compton making music with his friends, and he signed. He found out what he'd signed or hadn't signed later. His future manager, Pat Charbonnet, walked him through the numbers. And when Cube went back to Jerry Heller and Eazy-E asking for a renegotiated deal, the answer was effectively no. So in 1989, he walked. Left the group, left California, went to New York, linked up with Public Enemy's production team, the Bomb Squad. Made America's Most Wanted, and then answered the whole thing on wax, first on his solo album, then fully on No Vaseline in 1991, where he addressed every member of N.W.A. by name. He made an entire album out of the betrayal, because in the 90s, that was the only option. There was no lawsuit you could file that moved at the speed of a record. There was no social media post that reached your audience directly. You said it in a verse, pressed it to wax, and let the streets sort it out. Today, that's a different kind of fight. Today, Cube has an entertainment lawyer before the first contract is signed. Today, the label knows the artist knows the business because that information is freely available to anyone willing to look for it. But in 1989, the culture was still operating on handshakes and respect.
Now let's play big bank, take little bank. Try to diss Ice Cube, it wasn't worth it 'cause the boom.
And when the respect ran out, there was no safety net. The industry learned that lesson slowly, and mostly from watching artists who got hurt. Number 5, Biz Markie and the Sampling Ruling, 1991. Before December 17, 1991, this was just how hip-hop worked. You heard something, a drum break, a bass line, a hook from a soul record, a keyboard stab from a funk jam. You sampled it, flipped it, built something new around it.
God rest her soul. Couldn't understand why they only
That was the art form. That was the foundation. Public Enemy's Don't Believe the Hype was built on samples from 7 separate tracks. The Bomb Squad's production was an entire collage of pieces borrowed and transformed. Nobody asked. You just sampled.
And without so much as a mere touch of me.
Then Biz Markie came along. He had sampled Gilbert O'Sullivan's Alone Again, naturally, for a track on his album, I Need a Haircut. And here's the thing that makes this story almost unbearable. Biz actually reached out and asked for permission. His lawyers wrote a formal letter to O'Sullivan's camp, enclosed a copy of the tape, and requested a license to use the sample. O'Sullivan's people said no. Warner Brothers released the album anyway. A judge named Kevin Thomas Duffy opened his ruling with 4 words, "Thou shalt not steal." He granted an injunction, referred the case to the U.S. Attorney for possible criminal prosecution. And overnight, the rules of hip-hop production changed forever. Sample clearance fees became the new reality. Suddenly, producers who had built entire careers on flipping records had to budget for licensing costs that could eat up 100% of your royalties.
Encouragement from me, no words were ever spoken.
Records like Don't Believe the Hype, which sampled from 7 sources, became financially impossible for any artist without a major label budget and a team of music lawyers. The Bomb Squad's production style, arguably the most innovative sound in the history of the genre, became a thing that only the richest artists could afford to replicate. Biz Markie didn't start this problem. He just happened to be the one the judge made an example of, and the whole genre paid for it.
To start with a heart so badly broken, despite.
If you've ever listened to a 90s classic and wondered why the production sounds a certain kind of free, a certain kind of fearless, this is part of the reason why you won't hear that same sound built the same way again.
Hearts broken in the world that can't be mended.
Number 4, Death Row's contract negotiations, early 1990s. Let me tell you about how some of Death Row Records' deals got done. In the early 90s, Suge Knight, real name Marin Knight, was building what would become the most dominant rap label of the decade, and his methods were not subtle. There are documented accounts of Suge showing up in rooms with associates, and the artists who came out of those rooms having signed very different deals than the ones they walked in expecting. Dr. Dre's exit from Ruthless Records is one of the most discussed examples, though the specific details of what happened in that room have been disputed and denied by various parties for 30 years.
To this, G's up, freeze up for a second, now bounce to this.
What is not disputed is the result. Death Row, in its peak years, operated as an organization where the business side was inseparable from a culture of intimidation that the industry tolerated because the music was selling.
Laid back.
With my mind on my money and my money on my...
Artists signed contracts that handed over enormous portions of their creative output and financial upside. The label thrived. The artists who were loyal thrived alongside it for a time, and the ones who tried to leave found out what leaving cost.
I got a pocket full of rubbers and my homeboys do too. So turn off the lights.
And the mainstream music business looked away because California Love was everywhere, because All Eyes on Me was moving units, because when the machine is producing at that level, the people with distribution deals and radio relationships don't ask questions.
Laid back.
With my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
Here's what wouldn't work today. Social media doesn't look away. An artist who felt coerced, intimidated, or contractually trapped in 2026 has a platform to speak and an audience that will listen and amplify before any label PR team can draft a response.
Double G, but I somehow, some way keep coming up with funky ass hits like
The days when an entire industry could collectively decide not to notice something, those days ended when everybody got a phone with a camera and a public account.
that. I got me some Seagram's gin. Everybody got their cups, but they ain't chipped in.
Some of y'all already know there's more to this story than whatever made the news. And that's the point. It lived in the dark because the dark was protected. That protection is a lot harder to maintain now.
Ray got some tricks from the city of Compton to serve me, not with a cherry on top.
Number 3, the physical diss record. When beef required commitment, 80s to 90s. I want you to think about what it actually took to drop a diss record in this era. You had to write the verses, book studio time, record the track, master it, have it pressed to vinyl or dubbed to cassette, get it distributed to record stores, or get your street team moving copies on the block. Then you had to wait days, sometimes weeks, for the other side to even hear it. And then they had to go through the same entire process to respond. When LL Cool J recorded Jack the Ripper in response to Kool Moe Dee's challenge, that back and forth took months of real time. When Ice Cube's No Vaseline dropped in 1991, N.W.A. couldn't tweet a response in 45 seconds. They had to go back to the studio, record Message to B.I.G, press it, and release it through actual distribution channels. The whole thing played out over weeks and months. Physical objects in the world that had to move through physical systems. And because of that, because of the time and money and actual commitment involved, not every petty slight made it to wax. You had to really mean it. You had to be willing to fund it, record it, and put your name on something that would exist forever. Compare that to today. Beef starts on a Monday night post, escalates through voice memo responses. By Tuesday,
For those who appreciate real rap songs, listen how I won't allow my
30-second clips on social media by Wednesday, and a full diss track streamed worldwide by Friday. The whole cycle that used to take months now takes 96 hours, and maybe that's progress. Maybe faster is better.
party people. Let me see if you can dance to the rip-up.
But something is lost when the barrier to commitment drops to zero, because when the streets are littered with half-hearted shots and Instagram subliminals, the ones that actually mean something get harder to identify. And in an era where Drake and Kendrick could run a complete beef cycle in real time with millions of people tracking every move, you have to wonder whether the stakes feel the same, whether the weight is the same. A pressed disc record was a contract, a declaration in permanent material form. It said, "I was here, I said this, and I'm not taking it back." That doesn't exist anymore, and some part of the culture went with it. Number 2, Tupac's Vibe magazine interview, April 1995. November 30th, 1994. Tupac Shakur walks into Quad Recording Studios in Midtown Manhattan. He gets shot 5 times in the lobby, twice in the head. He walks out of that lobby, rides the elevator up to the studio, and finds Biggie, Puffy, Andre Harrell, and roughly 40 other people inside. Nobody approaches him. Nobody can look him in the eyes. He calls his girlfriend from a payphone, gets rushed to Bellevue Hospital.
Back to get wrecked. All respect to those who break their neck to keep
Checks himself out the next morning, and the interview where he publicly accused Biggie and Puffy of having prior knowledge of the shooting, that came out in April 1995, 5 months later, in a magazine, in print.
Just 'cause I'm a freak don't mean that we can hit the sheets, baby, I can see.
He was shot in November. The accusations reached the public in April. 5 months where the two sides existed in the same industry, at the same events, breathing the same air. Biggie and Tupac had been brothers.
Why you sweating? It's a lot of real G's doing time.
Somewhere between 1993 and that lobby in November 1994, something happened that turned brotherhood into suspicion. And the world didn't know the full version of Tupac's account until 5 months after the shots were fired.
Now you can tell from my everyday fits, I ain't rich, so cease and desist with them.
The Vibe interview had to be reported, written, edited, fact-checked, and sent to print. It had to exist as a physical object before it could spread. Today, that accusation is a tweet at midnight the same night. That tweet is screenshotted and on every hip-hop website by 1 a.m. By morning, it's a news cycle. Within 72 hours, every label executive, every radio programmer, every publicist is making calls. The machinery of containment and crisis management kicks in at a speed that 1994 simply didn't have.
That you don't recognize me, I'm Shock G, the one who put the satin on your panties. Never knew.
Does that mean the outcome would have been different? Nobody knows. But the 5-month gap between the shooting and the public accusation, that gap is what allowed the situation to fester into something that a modern PR team would have tried to mediate, negotiate, or suppress before it reached the point of no return. The delay was built into the medium, and the medium was a magazine, and the magazine moved at the speed of print. Number 1, Biggie and Tupac. From brotherhood to murder, 1993 to 1997.
You motherfuckers know what time it is. I don't even know why I'm on this track. Y'all niggas ain't even.
This is the one that sits with me the most. They met in 1993 on the set of John Singleton's Poetic Justice. Biggie was an unsigned rapper from Brooklyn with one single circulating. Tupac was already a star. They spent time together in Los Angeles, played music, smoked, connected. Biggie later said they just clicked immediately, like a Gemini thing. Tupac was playing Biggie's music for people before Biggie had a deal. That's what the brotherhood looked like before it broke. And then over 3 years, November 1994 to September 1996, the friendship became a feud. The feud became a coast-to-coast cultural war, and the war ended with both of them dead. Tupac murdered in Las Vegas on September 13, 1996. Biggie murdered in Los Angeles on March 9, 1997. 6 months apart, both unsolved. What wouldn't work today isn't the beef itself. Beef has always existed. What wouldn't work is the absence of any mechanism to interrupt it. There was no label-mediated meeting, no PR crisis team sitting both sides down before it reached the level of of public accusations and retaliatory records.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, salt and pepper and heavy.
No social media trail that forced every party to account for their words in real time. No phone call from an A&R at Interscope or Bad Boy saying, we need to address this before it spirals. The industry let it spiral because there was no protocol.
From cheap, I smoke skunk with my peeps all day. Spread love, it's the Brooklyn way. The most.
Because nobody had ever seen a beef this size between artists this big with fans this passionate, run at full speed with no breaks, and the culture lost two of the most important artists it had ever produced. Not because the beef was inevitable, but because the systems around it were not built to handle what it became. Today, a beef at that level, that size, that public, that financially significant would have a team of people working to de-escalate it before it reached the streets. Not because the labels care about the art, because they care about the asset. Whether that's better or worse, you probably already have an opinion. And whether Tupac and Biggie would have made peace if the systems had been there to push them toward it. That question has no answer. It only has weight.
It's out. You motherfuckers know what time it is. I don't even know why I'm on this track. Y'all niggas ain't even.
The culture never fully recovered from losing both of them. And the things that could have intervened didn't exist yet, and now they do. And whether they'd be enough, that's still an open question.
Change from a common thief to up close and personal with Robin Leach and a